angels willing to hold us in their arms. When our worth was stone, our ashes, and we both passed on. Let forever mean forever and carry on.
It is February 16, 2019. This is the Watchman News, and I'm Mike Callahan. I want to start off by thanking everybody that has used our Amazon affiliate link. It is amazing how well that is working. I am glad that we became an Amazon affiliate, and for those that want to help us out at all, just go to thewatchmannews.com. We've got a bunch of items on the site that you can click on. We've got different categories under the store. Or if there's something that you want that's not on here, all you have to do is go to the home page, type in whatever you want in the search bar, hit go, and it will track with our link, and we will get credit for the sale. We highly appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything more. It throws just a little bit our way, and it helps us get a little better prepared as well. So let's get down to this story. Now, you're going to need to grab yourself a drink and have a little bit of time here, because this isn't going to be the shortest video report. However, I think it's very important, and I think it is really going to lay everything out for everybody so that they can see what is truly going on with this situation down in Houston, Texas. So a while back, we had covered a story about a man and a woman who were shot and killed by police officers in a botched raid, okay? It turns out, and I thought there was a cover-up right from the get-go, even while the situation was unfolding at the time, things didn't look right. Then they had an initial press conference that evening of the event, and I could tell right then and there that things were absolutely not right. And what was key was a gentleman by the name of Joe Gamaldi. And when he came on and when he said his spiel and actually threatened anybody that questions anything from law enforcement, I knew then that there was a major cover-up underway. Well, it would seem like they are doing everything they can, not only to cover this up, but bury it under as many layers as possible. And I'm actually going to lay that out for you today. And I'm going to lay out the case for it. I'm going to go back to that original conference video. I stripped out all the little patting on the back that they did of everybody. I stripped all that back, and I got down to the nitty-gritty. Now, here's what you may not know. There was another news conference that was just done on this situation, okay? And this is where you're going to see that the corruption is going right on up to the chief trying to cover everything up. Now, my question is, okay, if we were involved in a crime, if you and I were involved in a crime, let's say we went to a store, a retail center, like Walmart or whatever, and we stole an item, okay? We got caught shoplifting, and we took off out of the store. We hopped in a vehicle. Let's say that there were police on scene, and as we were leaving the parking lot, the police officer struck a vehicle, and let's say that individuals in that vehicle had passed because of that accident, okay? As the shoplifter, not only would we be charged with shoplifting, but we would actually be charged in the death of those individuals as a result of the car chase that happened after the shoplifting incident, okay? We would be responsible for the deaths of those people. So my call is that all of the officers involved in covering this up, all the officers involved in lying to obtain the warrants, which you're going to find out about here in a moment, that they be charged with the death of these two innocent civilians, okay? It is absolutely insane. And I know Texas has some very, very strict laws and penalties when it comes to death and murder. And I'm sorry, I think all of the officers involved in either covering up or involved in the original lies to obtain the warrants should be charged some way in the connection with the death of the two civilians. I mean, it's plain and simple. I don't think that they should be able to get away with just, a slap on the hand, and I'm sure that's what is going to wind up happening in the end here. Now, again, we're going to start out with the original press conference, and then we're going to go to the latest press conference that many of you probably haven't seen, okay? But it's going to really lay out just how much they are still lying and trying to cover up, even today on this situation. Even though the officer, the chief of police, is acting like, oh, he's on the side of the public here. No, you're going to see it. It's going to be plain as day that it's still, regardless of how obvious their screw-up is, it is still the us versus them mentality, without a doubt. This is highly upsetting, highly frustrating. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. I've like I said, I kind of took the first interview or the first conference and I split it up. And I split it up in sections so I can make a few comments here and there. And then when we get to the new press conference, which was hard to get, by the way, that thing was almost impossible for me to get an actual hard copy of, for me to be able to do this video. But anyway, when we get to that, I'm just going to let it play out in its entirety, and then we'll finish up the report. So let's go ahead and start out from the beginning.
So at about 4:15 p.m., a narcotics group 15 from the Houston Police Department, who was working an investigation involving the sales of narcotics out of a residence in the 7800 block of Hardy Street, responded to Hardy Street as a team of about a dozen narcotics officers and about a half a dozen patrol officers from the East Side Division. The patrol officers were there to provide support and obviously to provide the uniformed presence for this operation. Shortly before 5 o'clock, the narcotics officers attempted to serve a search warrant on the location at 7800 Hardy Street. They announced themselves as Houston police officers while simultaneously breaching the front door of the residence. And while the police car, the marked police unit with uniformed members as well as the police officers or the police garb also hit the siren to make sure everybody can and hit the light so they knew that police officers were there. Immediately upon breaching the door, the officers came under fire from one or two suspects inside the house. We're not sure how many of the suspects fired at this time. As you can imagine, it was a pretty chaotic scene over there, and the investigation's unfolding.
Okay, so we'll start with that. Number one, none of the neighbors, none of the neighbors that I've seen that have talked about this have said anything about hearing anything like sirens or anything like that, okay? Now, I'm sure they could have most certainly announced themselves as they were busting through the door. Now, the story goes that the moment they breached that door, they came under fire. So are you telling me that this citizen, right, was sitting there the entire time with his firearm in his hand? Are you really trying to convince me of that? That this guy just sits the entire time, he lives his life with his gun in his hand and waiting for somebody to breach the door? So right there is nothing but a bogus story, okay? Right from the beginning. They could not have been under fire the moment that they breached that door, okay? But I think the truth is going to come out here in just a moment in the interview. I think the truth is going to come out. However, not one of the neighbors said anything about hearing a police car, okay? In fact, the only thing the neighbors talk about hearing is gunshots. That's it. And I'm not saying they didn't announce themselves, okay? I'm not saying that when they breached that door, they didn't say Sheriff's Department, okay? I'm not saying that. But maybe they should have said it again after they breached the door, okay? Maybe it would have saved people from dying that night and officers from being shot that night, because I firmly believe that the residents of that household, the two deceased residents, I firmly believe that they had no idea, absolutely no idea, that was law enforcement that was breaking into their home.
It's important to note that once the officers Initial indications are once the officers breached the door and the gunfire began from the suspects. One of the suspects actually retreated momentarily to the back of the room, and then that suspect came back and again engaged the officers and gunfire.
So I think maybe we're kind of starting to get a little bit of truth here. I think what happened is they breached the door. That I think that they were not uniformed officers that breached the door. I think they were plainclothes, undercover officers. And if you kind of pay attention to it and listen closely, that's the idea that you'll get, you know, because they made sure to include that there were uniformed officers there for support, but that, you know, that there were undercover officers there as well. So I think the undercover officers are the one that actually breached the door, okay? I don't think they were uniformed, and I think what this is a case of a man trying to defend his home and his wife, and I think that's all it was. I don't think there was shots initially. I think what they saw was this man going and getting his firearm, retrieving his firearm so that he could protect his home and his family, okay? I think that's exactly what happened here, and it would be really nice if they just told the truth, that this was an unsuspecting person, right, that thought that they were experiencing and were indeed experiencing a home invasion and was trying to protect themselves, okay? I think that's the truth of the matter there. Let's go ahead and continue on, though.
It's important to note that this investigation began, and I was talking to the council members and Stardig and Gallegos and Dwight Boykins and the mayor, that they received emails, we receive emails, we receive complaints. Our eyes and ears are truly the community that we serve. We could not do what we do without the community we serve. This all began because a neighbor had the courage to say, we're not going to put up. We think that they're dealing dope out of this house. And we don't just ignore that. We immediately pass that on to our narcotics division that began this investigation, was able to actually determine that narcotics dealing, street-level narcotics dealing, black tar heroin was being dealt out of this, and we know the poison that's killing so many kids, not only here in Houston, but around the country. They immediately started an investigation, and that's what they were there tonight. They were there to execute a search warrant.
Okay, so we already know that everything that he just said there is a lie. Okay, for one, if you looked at and we covered this the last video that we did on this subject, if you looked at what the neighbors had to say, the neighbors loved these people. The neighbors loved them. None of them for a second bought the story that they were drug dealers. Okay? Not for a second. So who was it that called and complained? Who was it that was emailing? He acted like there was just time and time accounts of people complaining about the drug dealing going on outside of this home. So that was a clear and obvious lie. Okay? Now this is important. All of this bogus story is important because it's going to lead up to the news conference that he had just had. Right? To where now they're backpedaling a little bit and saying, oh, well, there were some lies and no. This whole thing is a lie and continues to remain a lie. And the case is laid right out here for you. He does it to himself. He does it to himself. Anyway, let's continue on.
With that, I'm going to let Joe Gamaldi, who's in times like this, sometimes what we can't do, the Houston Police Officers Union do a phenomenal job of being partners with us, and I'd like to have him say a couple of comments on behalf of the Police Officers Union.
Now, I want you to pay real close attention to this guy's attitude. For one, he's got a little man complex, a huge little man complex. For two, I believe that this is the same officer that was in New York and was involved in a rather hefty lawsuit over a racial situation as a law enforcement officer, okay? A huge case up there that he lost because he was guilty of sin, and then apparently they just kind of moved him down to Texas and promoted him. Now he's part of the Police Officers Union, right? Because obviously he can't handle being a police officer because he's got a little bit too much energy trying to make up for his size, I guess. But anyway, this is Joe Grimaldi. You're going to hear what his comments are, and it's absolutely despicable, the threats that he makes to you and I.
Yeah, first of all, let me just thank the community. The outpouring of support has once been amazing, and it shows why Houston's the greatest city in the world. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who already contacted us to make sure these officers are doing all right. And I want to thank all of our partners at HFD, all the officers out on that scene, who all played a crucial role in getting them down here. And certainly thank you to the medical staff, the world-class medical staff here that are taking care of our officers. But now I want to speak on behalf of the 5,200 brave men and women of the Houston Police Department and the other 800,000 police officers that are working these streets every single day, putting their lives on the line. We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers. We've had enough, folks. We're out there doing our jobs every day, putting our lives on the line for our families. Enough is enough. Now, please, keep these officers in your prayers.
Now, I'm pretty sure that he just declared the citizens as their enemy when he said that. I mean, let's be real here. So, let me get this right. We're not supposed to question anything that we see might be wrong. We're not supposed to question when you might be lying. We're seeing across the nation, after people ask for body cameras to be installed, right? And now we've got an epidemic of police shutting off body cameras or police shutting off dash cameras on their squad cars, okay? Or doing other things like raising the hood of their squad cars so that the dash cam can't get a view. And we're seeing a rash of this, and now in many different locations in the United States, they're trying to make it so that all of that footage that is collected on dash cams, that is collected on body cams, that it cannot be given to the public, that the public can't see it. Right? The very reason why the public pushed for body cams was for accountability. And now they're trying to fight to make sure that they don't have that they don't have to be accountable. See, that's the problem here. And that's what I'm calling out. Okay? The individuals involved in this senseless murder of these two innocent people, okay? They need to be charged in their deaths. That's accountability. We certainly would be held accountable. They should be too. Aren't they supposed to be held to a higher standard? What the hell happened in this country? What happened? Now, we are being held on an unbelievably incredible standard. While anybody in position of power can get away with anything they want, whether you're a Catholic priest, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a member of Congress, it's just a free-for-all. While us, the meager peasants, get arrested because their grass is too tall, or get shot dead because you've got a broken tail light. There's a problem here. And when he claims that it's police officers that have a target on their back, look at the numbers. Look at how many deaths of police officers happen per year, and look at how many deaths of citizens happen every year. We're close to 1,000 citizens on average each year killed at the hands of law enforcement. Now you tell me, who the hell has a target on their back? Let's go ahead and move on to the latest news conference. This is the one that just had, and you're going to see him still trying to cover up, the chief that is, still trying to cover it up, and still trying to assassinate the character of the two deceased innocent victims. Sickening.
Yeah, okay, so I can't, there's the stuff you don't, you know, and the stuff you don't know. No matter what we end up with here, right, we know we've had a criminal violation already, and serious criminal violation by the individual that prepared that affidavit on the initial search warrant at the Harding Street location. We know that there's already a crime been committed. It's a serious crime. When we prepare a document to go into somebody's home, which is there's a sanctity of somebody's home, it has to be truthful, it has to be honest, it has to be absolutely factual. So we know already there's a crime that's been committed. High probability that there'll be a criminal charge. I'm not the DA, so I can't speak for the DA. Now, the level of the crime, that's yet to be determined. We have to continue with our investigation because there's a difference between a CI didn't do the buy to the officer did the buy in violation of policy. Do you understand? You've been around Rogowski for a long time. You guys know the difference, but it doesn't matter. That goes as to the extent of the criminality in terms of the behavior, and that's yet to be determined. We have obtained search warrants and executed search warrants for a multitude of phones, cell phones, and we will be able to assess the veracity of certain claims through those records and through that data. And so I appreciate the way that you framed that, because I think you've been in this beat long enough where you know that it can go in a lot of ways, but we know for a fact that more than likely the investigating officer will be charged with a serious crime at some point. What else?
How many officers now have been released from duty?
Well, remember we have multiple officers that were involved in the shooting, and they're not relieved of duty, but they're on administrative duty pending some of our policies and processes, and pending when we look at the actual, do a more in-depth assessment of the officer involved shooting. One has been relieved of duty that you all reported on before, that's been reported on, and the investigating officer is in the hospital. I don't see him getting out of the hospital anymore, but as a formality, we will be relieving him of duty, even though, quite frankly, I mean, it's really a formality more than anything else because of his condition at the hospital.
How does this affect, like, overall all the narcotics investigations? I know you said Chief Lopez will do a more thorough investigation.
No.
Are you going to put a temporary halt to some of the
No, we're not. No. Hey, look, folks. We've got plenty of good cases going on here. We don't want to jump to conclusions. The fact that I'm telling you that we will look beyond what's in front of us tells you that we don't take anything for granted. But I know the work that they're doing in there, and the work is actually good work. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of pissed off cops right now. There are a lot of angry cops. Because when you violate that oath of office, you make it hard for 98, 99% of these cops that go out there every day that you all know them. You make their job difficult. You've already asked, let me go to somebody else and I'll go back to you. Go ahead.
The case agent in this raid has been with the department for 34 years, and most of that time in narcotics. How far are you going back with these cases?
Well, look, we'll go back for a period of time, and we'll probably do a representative sample between the times that he's been there. If this is an anomaly, we'll be able to figure that out. If this is a pattern in practice, believe me, we'll be able to get to that really quickly. I don't have any indication it's a pattern in practice, because again, depending on what we can prove in terms of the interviews that we've already done with I will not call him a target officer. There's a difference between lying about who did the buy and not doing a buy at all. And I think it's really important for the community to remember that we have independent information and evidence from patrol when they went out there for the 911 call, and We have video of that. Somebody's going off about, I said there was cameras or no video cameras. Our patrol, our raid team that actually did the raid did not have body-worn cameras, but patrol officers that were in the support role and containment had body-worn cameras, so I'm not sure what the issue is with that, other than the decision point that we have to make in terms of putting body-worn cameras in all entry teams. And I just came back from the Major State Chiefs, a Major County Sheriff's Association. I actually broached the subject with not just my colleagues across the country, like we talked to you all about. We also broached it with the FBI Director, Christopher Wray. If we make the decision, then there's a high probability that we will move towards, for our entry teams, putting body-worn cameras on them. There's a high probability that we're going to move to that sooner rather than later. That then, when you have multi-agency entry teams, you can't have some without cameras, some with cameras. So we have to work through that. And I think preliminarily, my thought on that would be, if we decide to go to body-worn cameras, we'll either conduct the entries ourselves with no other agencies involved from the federal government, or we'll let them, if it's their lead on it, they can do it themselves. But there's a good probability in the short term that we will move towards body-worn cameras. Yes, ma'am.
So you said that there was reason to look into this location, and previously we heard that a neighbor had tipped off police that something was going on there. What have you all found about what indeed is going on?
Well, look, that's like I told you guys before. The reason I'm giving you an update is because the court, somebody provided a sealed document, and let me be real clear. We have 2 dead people, and we have 4 shot officers, including the target officer. We owe it to those that are involved in this, especially those that may not have any malfeasance, our officers. We owe it to them to get to the truth. And the only reason that we seal stuff, it's not to hide anything, but to make sure we don't jeopardize a criminal investigation to a very serious matter. And so when we're done, I guarantee you that we will leave no stone unturned, and the truth will come out.
Sir, I believe that the warrants we have, we were told by the court that they were not.
Well, I believe that is not true. We've got copies of it, so I'm not going to debate it, but that's a separate suit.
That wasn't my question. My question was, I'm just telling you what court's told us, but anyway, my question was, what do you say to the families and the neighbors who, the first moment this happened, told us, all the media here consistently, these were not drug dealers, these were nice people. So they may have smoked some pot, but they live in neighborhoods we've known for 20, 30 years. This is not who they were, and it turns out they were right.
Well, no, you're concluding they were right. You're making conclusions.
That they are
okay, well,
right.
Let me just say this. We all have seen people that murder people. We all seen people that molest their kids. We all seen people that have done some horrific things. And guess what the neighbors have always said? Oh my God, I never knew. I thought they were the nicest guys. So I'm not going to go there with you, and I'm not going to make any conclusions on that until we finish the investigation. Everybody wants to go from A to Z. That's not the way it works. So I was. I've talked to the family, and I'm not going to talk to the family through you.
Chief, what could be a possible
was there ever a tip? You indicated early on there was a tip.
Yeah, we have a 911 call where our patrol officers went there from a woman reporting to be the mother of a young woman that was in there doing heroin in this location.
So there was a tip.
Yes, and that's a 911 call. We have the CAD, we have the audios, we have the patrol units that responded. So this was not just an investigator decided to go target a house, as far as we've determined so far, for no reason. So the bottom line is, we're not going to jump to conclusions, because conclusions without evidence is just speculation.
Then what's the motive, Chief? What would this case agent of 3 decades experience have to gain?
I'm not going to
it up to sloppy police work?
Well, first of all, when you lie on an affidavit, that's not sloppy. That's a crime. Now, why he lied on the affidavit in terms of who did what, whether that was just laziness or not, that's yet to be determined. But you know what? When laziness includes lying on an affidavit, you're probably going to get, you're more than likely going to get arrested at some point, and we will have no problems putting, when the time is right, handcuffs on somebody that's violated the public trust.
Is there a possibility some of the officers were injured by friendly fire?
We haven't, at this point, I don't think there's any indication of that, but we still have a lot of work to do in that.
Are you guys looking into that possibility?
Of course, absolutely.
Can you confirm that any no-knock warrants or narcotics warrants at all have to be signed off by either a sergeant or lieutenant not going forward for the intern?
Well, I think that it already requires, my recollection, it already requires supervisory approval. Part of the thing that Chief Lopez will be doing in his review is looking at, do we need to tighten it up? But let's talk about that, because I know the New York Times a while back had a story on, not you, but the Times, had a story on an article about no-knock warrants and why they're, and how they're dangerous. I don't think when we're done here, after I had 4 officers shot and 2 suspects killed, that we'll be tightening that up pretty well. The truth of the matter is, if somebody flushes all the evidence, it probably wasn't because you have to not use a no-knock. You probably didn't have that much evidence in there to start with. And secondly, if it's that dangerous, we probably need to use a much higher, a different type of team to go in. So that's all part of the review.
Last thing, the original officer relieved of duty, who we will not name. Can you categorize his involvement or believe what his involvement? In other words, was he along for the ride on this, or was he actively in cohorts with the case agent?
That's part of the investigation. So I'm not going to characterize. Oh God, I'm not aware of any overtime stuff. Any of those, because there's so many rumors.
Well, in other words, there's a big difference between Officer A just writing Officer B's name down, unbeknownst to him, and Officer A saying, hey, can you do this, that, or the other for me?
You're right. That's exactly right. And there's a big difference in that. And I'm not going to
offer some clarity.
No, I'm not going to offer any clarity on that. I can tell you he still remains off, and he'll remain off until we're done with this investigation. Yes, sir.
Looking into the verifying that the CI had made the...
But let me just say, in terms of the veracity of the initial, that piece of the initial affidavit, he had nothing to do with that as far as we can tell so far.
Correct.
Okay?
Officer B.
Yeah. Not the case agent, the other officer that's off. So for the record, I will say that, in fairness to him and his family, as it relates to that initial affidavit, we don't have any reason at this point to believe that he played any role in that.
But the new affidavit is at least indicative that the case agent told Officer B to go get some drugs from the center console of his car. So that would indicate more that involved.
That's the continuation of an investigation. That was after the shooting. That was after all this thing happened. Go ahead, Manny.
When you were verifying that the CI had made these purchases according to the decision that's set in the affidavit, I guess would that be just a standard part of an investigation, like that you would just want to verify that this buy has occurred, and when you did that, that's when you found?
When you have when you have an officer-involved shooting, would that be?
Like no, a case like this where there's a drug bust, and you want to, an affidavit stated that a drug buy had been made before. Would that have been sort of standard procedure to verify that that had taken place when you're investigating an incident like this?
Let me just say this: when we do the job right, there's always multiple people involved, and I can just tell you, there's going to be anomalies. There's not 100% process, but understand something. You know, the problem here was identified by the police department. Nobody else. There was no other complainant. There was nobody coming in here and complaining. We initiated the investigation, and we actually have led us to this point. Secondly, we have auditing procedures in place that include integrity tests for our folks. So there's a robust system in place that we have. But there's no such thing when you're dealing with, if any police chief tells you that they can guarantee 100% that they have a system in place to have perfection, that person's lying to you. I don't think the human condition is imperfect. That's why we have to have these robust processes. That's why we have our integrity checks. That's why we have proactive internal affairs. That's why we have Special Investigations Unit. That's why we have the Civil Rights Division of the District Attorney's Office work with us, because we understand that that there are times when people are going to succumb to the imperfection of the human nature. A couple more, and then I'm going to get going.
What do you say to the community who doubted this in the first place? Do you worry about what,
Of course, you know what? I say to those, we owe an apology to this community just for the fact that we lied in an affidavit. That not we, a person lied in an affidavit. And I'm angry about that. I can tell you he's angry about that. She's angry about that. Those officers that were shot are angry about that.
All right. And so here's the thing. All right. As you could tell, when he was talking about how supposedly there was a 911 call and there was a young woman that was doing heroin in the residence and all that, he never said anything about a criminal charge. He never said anything about anything actually leading to anything other than that a call was made, that they've got a 911 call that somebody said that there was a young lady at the residence doing heroin. That's it. That's it. So it appears that that is all that they had. Now, on top of this, the whole reason why they were even having this conference, they wouldn't even have had this conference. They would have swept it all under the rug. But somebody on the inside wasn't going to let this rest. So they leaked a sealed document. And that is what led to this news conference. You would have never heard another word about this. You would have never heard another word about this. So it is important, it is imperative that we the people stick with this and that we the people demand accountability in this situation. Because there are 2 dead, innocent people that were loved by their family, loved by the neighbors, that are just in shock at what happened that night. And all the police are worried about doing is covering their ass. And I think that's been made very, very, very clear. It's what I got for you. I hope you made it this far. It's important information. I'll let you know if there's any more updates on this. This is a shame, folks. This is a shame. The government and law enforcement were never intended to be the powers that they are. They just weren't. And it falls squarely on us to fix this problem. Not at a ballot box. This problem's not going to be fixed at a ballot box, folks. None of this country's problems are going to be fixed at a ballot box. Anybody that thinks so is just fooling themselves. Anyway, that's what I got for you. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.